Call on members. Order of the day, number 1.
Social Security Clothing Allowances for Orphans and Unsupported Children Amendment Bill. Interrupted debate on third reading.
Members, when the House last debated the Social Security Clothing Allowances for Orphans and Unsupported Children Amendment Bill, Jan Logie was speaking. She has 9 minutes remaining to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm very pleased to resume my call on the Social Security Clothing Allowances for Orphans and Unsupported Children's Amendment Bill, which was unable to pass last Members' Day because for some reason the government members felt compelled to waste the time of this House on what seemed like endless, meaningless, repetitious speeches on bills that no one disagreed with. Not uncommon to the behaviour we've seen again this evening. I was disappointed that the children and their families who are following the progress of this bill so closely were again left hanging. That, to my mind, was disrespectful. I would now like to acknowledge Tracy Martin from New Zealand First for bringing this bill to the House and for shepherding it through Select Committee so effectively to get it to this point. Tracy Martin has had to swallow, I'd say, some dead rats in the process, but she prioritised the needs of children and getting a result over the intent that she originally came to the House with, and I think that deserves to be acknowledged. The Green Party supported this bill at first reading and support it now, but we are greatly disappointed by the government's warped priorities and meanness that have reduced this bill down to making children wait until 2018 to get the intent of the original bill for only an amount of money that is less than the flag referenda in practice. What this bill is about fairness. It's about addressing a small but important inequity in the funding which goes to support some of the most vulnerable children in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Those who through death or family breakdown have lost the support of their parents and are now in the care of other family members. While the quantum of the funding discrepancy around this issue of the clothing allowance may seem small to us sitting here in the House, and it really does seem small to me, I've got to say, in the scope of all the things that this House considers, it means a lot, and it counts for a lot for those families who are struggling to get by and wanting to provide the very best for the children in their care. So basically, to recap again what at the heart of this bill it's about is that children who are in foster care in New Zealand because of family breakdown or death are entitled to a clothing allowance of just over $1,100 a year to be able to buy whatever clothes they need. And usually they'll kind of be new clothes so that they can, and that's really, really important for kids. What you wear at school, I'm sure we remember that. It counted when I was a kid way back when, and it seems to count even more now. And that $1,100 and plus a little bit allowance is not available to children who are being cared for by their family members. So those family members, many of whom are grandparents, who are getting by on fixed incomes with no ability to just provide for that extra for those children to enable them to have those new clothes, they're not able to do it. And they're looking at these other children and feeling that they're letting down their grandchildren or letting down the kids in their care. They're giving up so much of their life to care for these children, and they feel as if somehow they're letting them down because they're not able to provide for them in the same way as children in foster care. There's just something so perverse about that to me. And in some cases, these grandparents or people in our community are so wonderful, that they're caring for their own family, children and family, and they're caring for foster children. And their foster children are entitled to this money. And so there they are in this one household, buying new clothes for these children and not able to buy those same clothes for children, their own kin, in the same house at the same time. That is a perverse thing and should be rectified by this House. And I thank the member Tracy Martin for bringing this bill to the House to enable us to fix that injustice and inequity and to enable parity between children in foster care and being cared for by kin carers. It's just a very, very sad thing that the government has said that it won't do it until 2018, despite getting entreaties from those children, as I'm sure members of the government have been getting, as we have, of the letters with the picture of those children asking us not to make them wait until 2018. And I do before I close, just want to touch on some of the process around this and what I saw happen in this House around that. I had an SOP in the committee stages of this bill to bring that time forward so that it would be able to happen this year for those families. And I had support from the Labour Party, the support, I think, from other parties within this House. And there was the intent for New Zealand First. Also, Tracy Martin and her party to be able to support that SOP because that was the initial intent of this bill. They wanted to be able to vote for that SOP. And while we had that in front of the House, the minister came down and sat beside the member and told her that the government would withdraw support for the bill entirely unless they voted against that SOP. That degree of pettiness in politics disgusts me, to be honest. For ensuring to prevent a member being able to deliver or even vote symbolically for the intent of the bill to show that actually this is what she wanted for children, that she wanted to be able to deliver it to them now as they're requesting, to be able to bully a party into voting against their own intent and desire, to me is a misuse of power and one that speaks to the heart of this government, and it's not a pretty sight. But I will finish on the positive note that this bill at least will deliver parity in 2018 and has the hearts and the well-being of children at its centre. And it is at least a great thing that the House gets the opportunity to put children first in any time in this House, because it doesn't happen very often. Sadly, it's still not happening for the government, but at least it's in there in the intent of this bill, and the Green Party is very happy to support it and recommend it to the House.